It says a lot about the culture of the company. It also says a lot about the underlying business model of the company, which is you've got to monetize the people who use the service by being able to sell access to advertisers, to them by advertisers. And if that's your revenue model and you have to keep growing it, you are going to end up doing everything you can possibly get away with that violates some of the confidentiality or privacy of a particular service. And I think the most important thing that Brian Acton said, and it certainly wasn't a low-class statement, you know, he's one of the WhatsApp founders who was criticizing Facebook. He said, we were trying to find other revenue models, including perhaps after a while charging somebody a tenth of a penny for a message. Now that may seem nuts in this world, but it is at least thinking out of the box, saying, can't we have another revenue stream that doesn't require us to sort of violate the lives of our users?
Now, Susan, I'm never, I think, slow to criticize Facebook, but something about this seems kind of off to me. I mean, overall, with all the turmoil in Silicon Valley, they've had a very stable executive team. The fact that these founders stayed there as long as they did is pretty remarkable. The fact that Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook's business side left WhatsApp alone as long as they did is remarkable. And all the details I read just sound like the normal back and forth between the creative foundry type people who want to keep a product pure, and the business people who are like, eventually this thing's got to make some money.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. You know, you look at the number of acquisitions that go sour very quickly, particularly when companies try to integrate whatever it is they've bought into their core product. They didn't do that. They left Instagram alone to grow and has become an incredible force as a result. And the same is true for WhatsApp. You know, they did Facebook Messenger. They did not integrate WhatsApp into Facebook. And I think both of those things showed real restraint and showed a real understanding of how tech companies and particularly founders do their best work. But you're right, at a certain point, I'm sure they got to a place where they thought, okay, we need this new revenue stream to continue the growth story we've been telling Wall Street for a long time. And that's the challenge you have as a public company, right? It's never a simple thing where you can just do what's right for the consumer. You also have to figure out how you're going to make your quarterly earnings.
Yeah, and Susan, to that point, I mean, we're talking about WhatsApp specifically. It's a $22 billion acquisition.
Right.
Here's one of the key questions, I think. Can Facebook make money on that product and still maintain some sort of form of privacy or encryption?
Yes, I think they can, because they can be selling a demographic without knowing what's inside those messages. I think that's very feasible. I do think the idea Acton had is actually a pretty great idea, and it would have been an interesting way to go, at least to try it, because it doesn't demand a sales force, right? You can build this, and that charging people a tenth of a penny or whatever it turns out to be after they've hit a certain limit of messages could have been a secondary revenue stream for Facebook that maybe would have worked on multiple different platforms. And it's an interesting way to go. So I'm sort of surprised they haven't at least played with it.
You know, we had Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong on the show yesterday, Walter, and we talked about what he's doing in media, obviously at the LA Times and beyond. His view is essentially that subscription models are the future, that they sort of have to be. And I wonder if you're seeing examples out there of what the new proxy for a media or social media business model will look like. Is it sub-based?
Yes, I think that what Susan said is very important, that it's important to wrestle and sort of explore new revenue models so you're not wholly dependent on advertisers who are going to want more and more than just regular demographics. They're going to want more and more specific things. But here's the important point, too. If you invented or created some social media platform that were verified, where the user was actually paying attention, you could end spam, you could end the spreading of lies and bullying, you could provide a real service that a lot of people might want. It may not be as easy to scale. I trust Zuckerberg. He says it's hard to scale that. But it's worth trying to say we're creating a social media environment where the people who use it are paying for it. We're not just selling for the advertisers. And secondly, because they're paying for it, they're authenticated, they're authorized, and the discourse can be more civil. And then you can really protect their privacy with really strong encryption.